Luke, you work for the UNCCD, which looks at fighting desertification all around the globe. In April, your organization had a substantial look at where countries are at with their fight against desertification. You had a look at action program alignment, role of CSOs in the process, knowledge sharing systems, national monitoring system, standardizing reporting, and a whole lot more, I believe. Then there was also a scientific conference which looked at the economic aspects and sustainable land management in dry lands. With the benefit of hindsight now, a couple of weeks later, what do you think is the most important outcome of these conferences?
The conference was just the first shot of a total evaluation of the economics of land degradation and SLM, sustainable land management. There are many outcomes. Let me just highlight the three of them. First is that focusing on preventing desertification, land degradation, and mitigating the effect of drought is far better than rehabilitating degraded land. So it means prevention is far less costly than restoring degraded land. Second is in monetary terms, the cost of land degradation is in the range of 490 billion US dollar per year regarding on-site costs to people. And this is about 5% of the agricultural GDP globally. But in some countries, it is even far more high because in Burkina Faso, for instance, land degradation is costing the nation of Burkina Faso up to 9% of the agricultural GDP of Burkina Faso, and even in Guatemala, it is up to 24% of the agricultural GDP of Guatemala. That's how important land degradation could be. And the third point I would like to mention is also the fact that there's not enough information or accuracy in the information available to draw firm conclusions. And this is, to some extent, contributing to policy inaction. So those are the 3 points I would like to make. Though there are many other conclusions one could draw from the findings of the conference.
You already spoke about successful sustainable land management, and what's the most important lesson learned there? Maybe you also have an example for a successful intervention in the field.
There are many. I have seen many success stories. Let me be more specific about a case in Guatemala. Could you imagine that in Guatemala, a cement corporation being now one of the investors in land rehabilitation? This is quite surprising, but the point is that taking advantage of initial governmental subsidies, they started, restoring through afforestation some of the degraded land in the areas where they have their cement plants. What happens is that the subsidy has been phased out, and they continue because producing through cogeneration energy, they found that this is quite comparable to importing energy from the US. So today they continue afforestation, and this is part of, if I'm not mistaken, 3 to 5% of their energy needs, and this is part of their business process. So across the globe, there are so many good practices, success stories, and conducive policies, which we really need to bring to the fore.
Thank you very much for that colorful example. UNCCD and your organization in particular is operating on the policy level, obviously. If you could just put this into a perspective now, what do you think? What has to be done on that in that policy environment to enable sustainable land and soil management practices?
What has been hampering the implementation of the convention at country level is basically the fact that affected developing countries, though most of them they have actually designed and approved their national action plan, they have failed to a large extent to mainstream it in their national platform for poverty alleviation, food security, and sustainable development, including sustainable growth. And the lack of mainstreaming is actually the major cause of lack of investment in addressing land degradation. So to address this issue, we need to bring to the fore the cost of inaction versus the benefit of action. So the cost of land degradation to be compared to the benefits of sustainable land management. When you consider that, for instance, in Niger, overgrazing is costing in the range of 1,100 US dollar per hectare to the nation. Now, how do you avoid overgrazing as one of the major causes of desertification in Niger? What the investment needed, if it is done through, let's say, governmental managed projects, it is within the range of 200 US dollars per hectare, which is 1/5 of the cost of inaction. Now, when you do it through community approaches involving communities, this cost may just be, in a range of 50 to 60 US dollars. So bringing those information to ministers of finance, and also with the understanding that addressing land degradation is about, improving the yield of the land sustainably, sometimes doubling or tripling sustainably the output of the land. It is about taking population out of poverty and ensuring their food security and building their resilience. Those are the type of information we need to equip government with.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the policies being papers. You work in a UN organization. There's a lot of expertise. It's very knowledge information driven, and you go in there and you try to convince your stakeholders with a lot of knowledge and information. But we also know that behind any proper policy, you will need money behind this. You will need political will behind it, and you need to acknowledge that there is a political economy that works in the field. Are there any particular selling points that you use to promote your issues there, beyond just information?
I think that being a more effective knowledge broker is certainly the point on which we need to, make much more breakthrough. Because what is needed for policymakers to, assess existing policy is precisely the knowledge they need regarding their current policy environment and existing practices. So, as the UN institution, our responsibility is much more on the normative side of existing practices and information regarding what is available as good practices which could be used as reference to assess and amend existing context. And one of our other responsibility is, of course, assisting government in monitoring what is being done.
Since you spoke about land here as a very important factor, obviously, I wanted to ask you about the scientific advice. How do you organize scientific advice, especially with regards to what I heard about, that there's people thinking about independent panel on land to be established, and that there's a bit of a different opinions?
I think that globally, one of the things we have researched about the most is agriculture. So there's a wealth of knowledge about how we should manage land and soil, of course, with implication on water resources. But those knowledge, unfortunately, are just trapped into silos here and there in the world. So my plea is that we need to have an authoritative mechanism, platform, name it the way you prefer, but an authoritative way to bring to the fore the knowledge we have to care for our soil. In the UNCCD, one of our motto has been enhancing soil anywhere, enhances life everywhere. And this needs to be translated. Yes, there are solutions. One could be using the IPBES And I look forward to seeing how ICDS will consider this. And probably another way is to really consider a fully fledged mechanism or platform to attend to land and soil science and knowledge. The UNCCD next conference of the parties, which will take place in Windhoek, Namibia from the 16th to the 27th of September, will consider four options, the four options which have been assessed by an ad hoc working group established by the previous session of the COP. And I look forward to seeing the wisdom of the COP operating on that.
One more question to you with regards to us being here with the Global Donor Platform for Rural Development, bringing together the strategy question and also what you just said in terms of setting up a possible mechanism for land. How can donors be supportive of that?
Donors can be supportive at three levels. And let me start with the local level, which I believe is the most important one. At the local level, we will need to empower local communities so much so that they will establish holistic management of their natural resources. We must be aware that farmers are the largest biodiversity managers of our planet. They are also smart investors. Donors need government partners. They need to put in place mechanisms to bring the investment and assistance and support at the local level to drive sound and smart management of natural resources, and land will benefit from that. The second level, of course, is national policies. Donors need to also agree with government on how existing policies could be improved and amended, and how to establish smart subsidies, and how to phase out inappropriate subsidies as well. And the third level is the global level. And the global level, we must also agree that land degradation is being driven by, poorly designed policies and misplaced investment or the lack of investment. Donors globally need also to come together and decide on how this could be amended and how this could be improved. So now, to be more specific, in the UNCCD, there have been a number of initiatives which could be used as a kind of learning ground or example to be emulated by some other donors. The government of Korea launched the Changwon Initiative, which was precisely meant to support and enhance the implementation of the 10-year strategy in some specific aspects, being supporting the alignment of the National Action Plan and supporting the mainstreaming of those National Action Plans, but also supporting knowledge sharing. And we can also mention the initiative supported by the government of Germany with a number of other partners, including the European Commission, regarding the total value of the economics of land degradation. Those elements will have not only global impact, but could be translated at national level. If we run many national case studies of the economics of land degradation, we are likely to equip those governments with elements, information to mainstream the issues of land degradation and sustainable land management in their national budget programming and investment.
Thank you very much, Luc.
Thank you very much, Pascal.